All right. I'm Aella. I'm 32 years old.
Mm-hmm.
My location is here, but I originally came from Idaho and now I live in SF. I have no education. I was homeschooled, and I make most of my money through research right now, but I also have done sex stuff of varying sorts in the past.
When did you start doing S work?
Started escorting about 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's the nature of or I guess the scope of the S work that you've been involved in?
Well, I have ads online, and then people email me, and they're like, hey, can I meet up? And I'm like, yeah. And then they show up, and then we go to a hotel room, and then they give me money. I actually did it last night in the hotel room that I used to stay here. So I met somebody from
are you
LA.
guys sharing a hotel?
No.
Okay.
We're at the same hotel.
Yeah.
But not
Same
sharing a room.
hotel.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, saw a lovely gentleman. He's really great.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And is there like a going rate?
Yeah.
Or is it just kind
I
of...
charged $4K for the first hour, and then $1,000 each additional hour.
Okay. How many, did he just do the one, or was he like a baller and just...
It was a couple hours.
Like, what if
2
somebody
hours.
wants like a day, like 24 hours? Is that,
Yeah,
you give them a discount or
I
anything?
just changed it a little bit. I think it's like 40K or something, maybe 30.
Okay.
It doesn't happen often. I don't really escort that much anymore because I make more money from writing, but
Okay.
I still occasionally
And
escort.
what do you do with the hotel rooms? You guys just talk about things?
Chess.
Yes, and also have intercourse.
Oh, okay.
Cool. And you also did OF2, is
Yeah.
that correct? And you were kind of an early adopter, is my understanding.
Yeah, it was one of the first. I signed up first in 2017, and then when it first hit, I was making around 100K a month very early. But now I don't work on it that much anymore. It's kind of repetitive.
Okay, got it. What relationship status? And if you're single, how long have you been single? And what's the longest relationship you've ever been in? Go ahead.
I'm currently dating somebody. I am polyamorous. I've been dating this person for 4 years, and currently, yeah. Was that all of the questions?
Longest relationship?
The 4 years is my longest, yeah.
4 years. Is that your current relationship? 4 years, okay. And a couple questions here. You said you're poly, right?
Yeah.
Are there currently any other people that you're seeing right now?
Not with dating, but I definitely bang a lot of other people for fun.
And your partner, is it a man or a woman?
Man.
Man, okay.
Yeah.
And he's okay with the escorting, and I think you said, was it banging a
Yes.
lot of, I don't want to misquote.
I bang a lot of people
Bang
for
a
fun.
lot of people?
Yes.
Men and women? Or
men.
just men?
Yes.
Okay. And it's all copacetic for him. He's
Yeah.
cool with it.
I mean, he's
Okay.
banging probably more women than I am banging men.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's open for both of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a free for all,
Do you guys
really.
compete at all? Like,
Yeah, we're like head to head on our spreadsheets for body count right now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you both have spreadsheets.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Do you keep count?
Yeah.
She's a data. She's all about
I
the
love
data.
that.
So, also, I guess kind of related to your intro, I forgot this. There's a couple like interesting things about you that were on the internet. You set records for showering or lack thereof.
Yeah.
And you posted a tweet about it because you keep impeccable data. Damien, can we pull up the shower tweet? So I think it was in 2022. You tracked how many times you did a variety of things. One of these
Every
was
year, but yeah.
showering. Oh, every year. And how many times did you shower in 2022?
Oh, I think it was 34 or something. I think it was
34.
27 in last year
Okay.
or something like that.
Pull it up. Do you have the? Okay, my 2022 in stats images. My
Period.
and some went outside, pooped, socialized, worked, took Adderall, drank alcohol, danced, had sex. 63, cried. 59. Is there a level like crying and sex happens at the same time ever? Or?
Ideally, yes.
Ideally, she's
Yeah.
okay.
If
Got
it's
it.
good sex.
There's crying involved. Good to know. Wrote, gamed, had a good meal, and at the very bottom showered, and then scroll down just a little bit. Oh yeah, whatever. So showered 37. What lowest amount of times you've ever showered in a year?
I think it was like 14 or 17, I think.
17, and that was in
2019
29.
is my guess.
And how about for 2025? How's that looking so far?
2 showers so far.
2 showers.
Yeah.
I want to challenge you. I'd like to initiate a call to action, Aella.
Yes.
2025 is your year. For the least
The least.
amount of showers What do we think? I think sub
What's the
10.
world record?
Sub 10.
Probably 0.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Well, I figured out that if you actually don't shower often enough, my skin started turning darker from dirt that in a way that like wasn't coming off during the showering. So I was like,
don't these stats imply though? So I was just kind of looking at them. If you are having sex more often than you're showering, does this imply that between clients you're not showering?
I do whore baths. So I do
What is a
wash
whore
my.
bath?
It's the sink.
Don't bring her into the. Wait, what? I thought you said you do. Never mind. Those.
No, I just get a washcloth. And,
Terrible.
You get a washcloth.
yeah, you can spot wash.
What if you go in the shower, but you only shower below the belt? Is that a shower?
Sounds a little more annoying, but
Is that a shower?
I don't. There
You may
is.
as well do
There
a full
definitely is a
shower at that
question.
point.
What?
You may as well just do a full shower at that point. If you're doing half your body.
Well, what if
Oh,
you shower?
You just like wipe. So I mean, I'm sorry to be graphic, but you just like basically wipe a dude's jizz off, and then you're gonna have sex with another guy, and you don't shower in between even.
I mean, wiping a dude's jizz off in the shower is what people do. I just do it more locally.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a factor of like water power and pressure and all sorts of things that come with showering that
Well,
you're
this is-
probably not going to get from a washcloth, right?
Well, I do have a bidet, and I use that very aggressively. I basically like sandpaper off a layer of skin.
Cheating.
You use
Yeah.
your bidet when you're at a hotel because there's no bidets in hotels. Last I checked.
I bidet after I get home, and then before I go see a
Some
client.
nice hotels maybe have.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
do.
there isn't any bidets in the hotels there. You just saw a client, so I assume you didn't shower post sleeping with this client, right?
Well, I go home and then I bidet. It's very simple.
Did you bidet last night after your client?
No, actually, I haven't bideted yet.
Yeah, I haven't bideted
But I
yet.
did aggressively use a washcloth. So.
Aggressive
Yeah.
washcloth.
Yeah. You just have to
usage.
scrub it down until you're in a little bit of pain.
Wow, okay, nice. But you should try to set a record this year. 2025, your year. You can
Yeah.
do this.
I think I can do
I believe in you.
15 showers. Wait, I
No,
don't want
sub
to.
10. Sub
But
10.
I do shower more than 37 times a year, not to brag. And, but if it was a contest, I would definitely be winning.
And then let's see. Okay, so but you're in this polyamorous relationship. Have you always been poly?
Yes.
Even when you were younger, like 18, 19,
The
20?
first time I heard the word I was like, that is unambiguously me. I'm absolutely poly, and I've never doubted it since.
And never been like in a monogamous
When I was a
relationship ever?
teenager and
Maybe when
very
you-
Christian, I was like, monogamy is the thing. And then I was trying to do that for a while and kind of failed.
Is anybody else here? Well, I guess we'll get into it. We'll come back to some of this stuff, but I'll just get everybody's relationship with. Let's start with Aella. Let's see. Sorry, one sec. There's so much. So Aella, you were homeschooled from birth to the end of high school. Your parents were evangelical fundamentalist Christians in Idaho. Is this like Westboro Baptist or no?
Oh, we thought they were cool, but we were not Westboro.
But like kind of similar? or
Yeah, I would say there's a spectrum from like normal Christian to Westboro. We were like probably 70%.
Close to the
of the way.
Westboro. Okay. You
We were
said
Calvinist.
Calvinist. Okay. You said after leaving home, losing your faith and failing to attend college, you turned to a series of shitty jobs involving like a factory work, waking up 4 a.m. You escaped from that into the warm, wet embrace of adult content, which you used to fund dives into faraway realms, both physical and psychedelic. You did a documentary or two. You spent a year somehow getting addicted to LSD, and you did become one of the top OnlyFans creators until your attention span ran out. I believe that was the bio on your website.
Yes.
And you've done escorting. We talked about the shower thing. We don't need to touch on that. And you've been involved in sex work since, you said 2017, was it? Or
Since I was 20.
since you were 20?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And your dad was super conservative.
Yes, professionally so.
And I watched most of your interview with Lex Friedman. It was really interesting. You said you grew up in a very patriarchal, I guess, household.
Yeah.
Where, and to quote you, you said women were subordinate to men in regards to making decisions when married. And so I was curious on this. It sounds like you kind of disagree with this sort of sentiment. I guess maybe a jumping off point, and we can get into more broad general conversations related to that. Does anybody kind of agree with her when it comes to like, should women be subordinate to men? Now that Aella, I guess you're position on this topic, if you want to elaborate a bit.
I just don't know what should means. Like, should for what purpose?
What do you mean?
Like, should you jump up and down? And I'm like, well, should you do that in order to achieve what goal? Like, shoulds are
he doesn't
contingent.
mean should. He doesn't mean should is like an ought. He's talking in the comments. So when you're talking about like should, and you're doing the little like autistic Hetzberg thing, I know exactly what you're doing. It's a very low tier form of philosophy. He's saying should in the comments. He's not saying should as an ought statement of a moral imperative.
What is a slightly higher tier of philosophy that you would recommend I try?
Well, I would start with understanding that you're not in a philosophical engagement at the moment, unless you see everything purely as a philosophical engagement, and that you would have to agree with me that you distinguish between words in the commons, and you distinguish between words which have philosophical terms. So if somebody's engaging with you, for instance, a medical doctor or a lawyer, they're going to use legal terms or medical terms. They're going to have a different meaning than the common terms of those words or the philosophical terms. So when you say, I don't know what should means, I actually don't believe you in this context. I think you know exactly what he means by should.
This is the way that I talk all the time, and sort of the question that I would ask anytime somebody asks me if somebody should do anything.
Yeah, and I just explained to you that there's a distinction here.
I still don't understand what should means in this context. So
what does should mean in any context?
Well, it's usually dependent on something, right?
Okay.
Like, should I go to the store? I'm like, well, if you're hungry.
So dependent on this context, what do you think should means?
Like, my guess is probably there's some implicit, like, to be happy kind of thing, but I don't know if this is true.
Well, then we'll go with that.
I would like to check, though. Like, is that what we mean? Because if so, then I can answer.
Yeah, so can you even repeat what the question was?
But it's also different because sometimes people argue the purpose of like some types of social structures is not to be happy, but rather to have like a flourishing society or something.
Yeah,
which
like
is,
I'm fine getting into semantics with you when it comes to should, but can you repeat what the question even was?
Should men lead their wives or some variation on that?
Yeah, so he's asking from your worldview, whatever that is. I believe you say that you're a rationalist, so from whatever your rational worldview is, the should sense here is ought they or ought they not lead wives?
For what purpose? I can't get over the what purpose. Like for happiness, I think probably a lot of people would be happier if their husbands led them. This seems true.
Okay.
I don't think I would be that much happier, but I am not normal.
Okay, so then should they or should they not? Ought they or ought they not? For the purpose of happiness.
You sound very confident in the things that you say, but I'm not sure that makes you more right.
It doesn't make you more right because you don't understand the things I say either. So I would just like an answer when you're talking about ought or ought not. Ought they or ought they not for the purpose of happiness?
I can't answer. I mean, maybe I'm very stupid, and maybe you could explain this to me. But you're saying ought is a common use.
I'll use really small words.
Yeah, we can use very small baby words for me because my small little brain has difficulty sometimes. But when you're saying ought they lead their wives, do you mean that there's like a general sort of way that the world is good if it is and bad if it isn't, and you're referring to like a general sense of goodness?
No, I'm not inferring or making an implication for anything. This is an askance from the worldview of you, who is not me. Whatever your worldview is, who is not me, from your worldview that is not mine, ought men lead their wives?
I'm trying to communicate my view, and my view is something like, I think that some people would be happier if their husbands led them, and some people would be sadder if their husbands led them. I'm not sure that there's such a thing as an overarching goodness, so I don't really...
Got it. Okay, so sometimes. Thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying.
Well, that was an interesting exchange. I do have a question related to this, though, to, again, perhaps get to the heart of the issue. Who gets final say? So in a relationship or a marriage, whatever, let's say there's some sort of impasse. There is no resolution. You can't come, you want one thing, he wants the other. Who should get final say?
Whoever pays.
Hold on. So, and I think, Andrew, sometimes you refer to this as a threshold breaker, I think, but who do you think gets final say? Or would you, I guess, either in your own dynamics, who should get final say? What do you think? Starting with you, Aella.
Like, it depends on the thing? I'm confused.
Sure.
Like, if you're disagreeing over, like, where should we move?
Sure.
I don't know, probably you should bet on it, or, like, see who would want to pay more given that you had the money, or make prediction markets to figure out. I don't know. I don't think I operate by these norms, but I know a lot of people do.
Sure. What do you think?
I think it's going to depend on the situation. Obviously, you have to respect the person that you're with. So to do something that is going to damage the relationship or blatantly disrespect the other person's not going to end up. You're kind of making.
They're not identical. I just don't think. I think that leadership implies authority.
Are you trying to figure out where the power lies? Like, are you trying to point that power fundamentally lies in somewhere?
Yeah, I don't think that men, when women say that, my man has the authority or this type of thing, I don't know that that's actually the case, because it seems that the authority is granted from them, the authority. It almost seems circular.
Just to clarify your position, what would be an example of something where a man truly has authority?
He's your boss at work.
So in a romantic relationship, I mean.
Yeah, but that's not what you asked. You asked what would be a position.
I know I asked it, but I used the words wrong. My intent was.
I think in the West, I would be hard pressed to give you an example of where a man truly has authority.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
hopefully one day.
on your website, you haven't done it yet.
No.
But you do say, if you're interested in using my eggs to reproduce, you're down to discuss this in exchange for payment for your time and fear of needles. You have ancestry, health testing, and family history that you can share. Have you had any inquiries or at all, or no?
Yeah. I've talked with some people. We might do something. I just did my first round a couple months ago.
First
round of freezing.
Oh, you're freezing the eggs. Oh, okay, so you can just sell those then.
Yeah, although I think we might get genetic engineering soon, so I think I would maybe like a whole bunch of them to do genetic engineering experiments on.
Interesting. Okay.
How much do you sell them for?
Ideally about $100K.
Wow.
Would you do surrogacy or no?
I don't think so.
Like you carry the child?
It seems like I could pay someone else to do that.
What if someone's like $5 million?
I would definitely carry a child for $5 million.
For $5 million.
Yes.
All right.
How yeah.
Now into something kind of pretty interesting. There is a gangbang flow chart. We have to pull this up. Can we pull up the tweet, Sir Damien? So why don't you tell us?
Gangbangland? Is that back? Gangbangland?
Something like that. You got it, Damien?
Yeah.
Okay, pull it up, please. Okay, this is your Twitter. For my birthday, my partner and some friends organized a huge gangbang for me. 42 attendees. Here's the break. Lily loves this one.
Yeah.
Here's the breakdown of how the event was organized. There were exit survey statistics and what it was like for me psychologically. Why don't we pull up the next tab with the actual graphic? Okay, put us on the other side. So there were 1,600 respondents. 800 failed the autofilter. About 700 passed the filter. 250 you contacted. Half of those didn't respond. There's 83 who didn't interview. 87 got invited. 56 got tickets. 43 did STD tests. 42 showed up, 5 of which did not bang aella. 37 penetrated aella, 17 of which came in aella, 5 came in a fluffer, 15 did not climax.
Yeah.
I love that this shows like the logistical nightmare of a
I
gangbang.
had so many
it's
questions
hard.
for you because when you were like, you're doing so many guys, I was like, can I ask you about the logistics?
It's
Please.
tricky, honestly.
You should do a flow chart.
Yeah,
It'd be amazing.
I need
Maybe
you
Ayla.
like on the.
Ayla.
I would love that.
Do the flow chart. Do the flow chart for
Hell
for
yeah.
Lily's.
Yeah, I could do it right. I love the tracking the data and stuff. Really
I
love
love that.
We could check
You need,
correlations.
I think that'd be
Lily, you
great.
need a flow chart.
Yeah, I feel like also it's great to have someone to like verify things. Like he did penetrate. Yes,
Right,
that was a common
they had me
side.
do Sharpies on my leg to track what was happening, and that helped a lot.
Sharpies.
And then they signed a guest book afterwards.
There was a
Love
guest
that.
book.
Yeah.
Okay, so they write a little note or
Proper
something.
party.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
Were there rules? Like, do they get a time limit, or how does that?
Yeah,
shit
I think
work?
it was like a max of 2 minutes per guy because,
2
it
minutes,
really
okay.
adds up.
Yeah. Did you was there one that you liked and you gave him like next to 30 seconds or?
There wasn't. It was really a blur. The very first guy was a virgin, and they popped confetti when he entered me, and then he shouted Leroy Jenkins as he started fucking me or banging me, whatever. Which was yes.
I have that ready to go.
Wow, lovely.
That's fun.
Yeah, and I was like, this is an interesting experience to be in. I like it when things are surreal, though.
Wait, how old was he? The virgin?
I don't know, mid 20s maybe. He also wore a heart rate monitor and then gave me the data of his heart rate.
Was he diabetic or what?
No,
was
he
his-
just
he
just offered it. It was
big
like, do you
guy?
want to see my heart rate data? And I was like,
Oh.
please wear a heart rate monitor for the.
Yeah. So he lost his virginity in a birthday
Yeah.
gangbang. Okay.
Yeah, only one. Although you did how many virgins did you do?
I've probably done like maybe 5 virgins.
Okay.
I did quite a lot because I did recently a 50-man anal gangbang.
Oh,
And I took a lot of anal virginities recently. So
Wow.
Wait, hold on. You pegged?
no,
do you
as in I got fucked. All of them were anally.
In the
Arse.
arse.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Congrats.
But yeah, there was a lot of anal virgins though.
Wait,
so.
I gotta ask Lily. So is this actually
wanna see the video?
recorded though?
Yeah. I'll show you. I'll show you the video.
I feel like some of the I don't know if it's the case for you, but I've heard these stories like these girls will make up these kind of elaborate scenarios that are just not actually true. But this is actually recorded.
I'll show you all the evidence. Don't you worry.
Yeah, we can't show it on stand, obviously, but
after.
But some of these people make this up because it's for the clout or whatever. But you actually did it.
Yeah, I did it with another
Okay.
girl as well.
Okay.
Tiff, so she can vouch for me as well.
All right. Okay. And have you done multiple of the gangbang?
No, I just did it that one time. I actually
One time,
didn't like it very much.
Singular gangbang.
Yeah.
Okay, you didn't like
I just
it.
want to see what it was like.
Yeah, it wasn't your thing.
No, because you have to be like, oh no, I feel bad for the guy. Is he feeling okay? I want to make sure that he feels fine, and then you can't
Yeah.
let go yourself. The reason we tried that gangbang in the first place was because I was running an orgy, and these people ran a train on me. I think it was 15, 11 guys or something.
Wait, that was a different.
It's a different orgy. Because
Isn't that a gangbang?
No, orgies is all genders. Gangbangs is all guys and one girl.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
it was kind of an
I see.
impromptu gangbang, if you will, in the middle of this orgy.
Half a gangbang.
I throw non-consent orgies, so you wear a wristband and then people can do whatever they want to you within a certain period of thing. Anyway, so I was wearing the wristband and they just threw me down. And it was a train, and it was fucking fantastic. Afterwards,
Wow.
I was glowing. I felt so good for days. It was like I had done a really good psychedelic, and then I was like, this is so amazing. And so my partner saw that and he was like, wow, sounds like it was really good for you. He's like, so for your birthday, I'm going to try and arrange an even bigger one. But I think the logistics of the bigger one, just the magic wasn't there.
Sometimes that takes
hold on.
away from it. I couldn't agree
it really
more.
does.
Ariel, here, speaking of Mike, you had a really big reaction to the. Did you want to say something, Ariel?
I'm just kind of intrigued. I've never heard of it before. It's
Gangbangs?
honestly, good for you guys. I don't know. I'm just learning new stuff.
She's learning. All right. Wait, so you've done multiple grape play orgies.
CNC, yeah.
CNC, consensual.
Yeah, I
non-consent.
run a series.
How many have you done of these?
8, I think.
8?
7 or 8. Yeah.
And so, YouTube's a little tricky with it. I understand it basically, though. You describe yourself on Twitter as a whore lord.
Yes.
And a vex worker.
Indeed.
What is a whore lord?
The Lord of Whores.
You're the Lord of Whores.
Yes.
Okay. The Lord of
I thought it was relatively
You should do
self-explanatory.
Milady.
Tolkien. Okay. You're the Lord of them.
Yeah, I mean, I
have
write
a-
guides on how to do it if a girl's
How to be
interested in getting
a
into
whore,
it.
You a whore guide?
Yeah,
You
if
write
you're
guides. how to be the best whore.
It's hard to be a good whore.
how to even get
It
into
is
it,
difficult.
right?
It's hard.
How do you stay safe?
I tried once. Just,
You tried it? How was it?
I'm just joking. But okay, so you're kind of like the
Lord of Whores.
yeah, I'm kidding myself at this point. And Vex worker, what's that? Are you a witch?
Well, I think people really get mad at me a lot for things that for a while I didn't know that they were going to get mad at me for, and now I've started to catch on. And so people seem to be very vexed by me.
They're vexed.
They are vexed.
Why are they? How are they vexed?
I think people are horrified by a lot of things. I ask a lot of moral conundrum polls, which I probably can't repeat on stream. For example,
Moral conundrum.
can I say?
I have a moral conundrum.
Yes.
Oh, can you say what?
Well, can I talk?
Don't bring up the minors. Don't bring that
No,
up.
no, it's
no.
not mine. It's is bestiality wrong, and are you a vegan?
You talked about this at dinner when we were in Colorado.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I did see some of your tweets on this.
Yeah, it just seems
actually,
a little funny that we have different standards for intercourse versus killing and eating. I know if someone were going to do one to me, I would rather not be killed and eaten.
Okay.
And so
Interesting.
anyway, that's an example of people seem to get really mad at me for that one, but I thought it was relatively straightforward.
Sure. And then let's see here. You said you built a dating survey. You picked the top guy from that. You were not attracted to him, but you brute forced through the first date. You guys spent 3 days at an Airbnb, brute forced it.
Yes.
And you forced yourself to have sex with him.
Yeah. That's my current partner.
Oh, that's your current for 4 years.
No.
Does that upset him? Does that upset you? Know, like
no,
pity
he
sex? Was it pity sex? It was a bit of pity sex.
No, I think it was curiosity sex. I was like, I should probably try it.
You forced yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, he just scored. I had a survey that was scored, so people answer questions, and then if they, on the back end, I built it, and then you get an output, and then I contacted the top scorers, and then he was like one of the very top scorers, and so I was like, date, and I made a graph of the scores and pointed at him, and he said, sure, 3 days in an Airbnb, and I was like, great. So he went to an Airbnb for 3 days, which was the first time I'd like seriously talked to him, and then I was like, well, if I'm going to figure out if I should date you, I should probably have sex with you. I was not attracted to him at all. He was really annoying to me at that time, but he's much better now.
Do you want kids?
I would like to have genetic offspring.
Genetic offspring. Okay. With him or?
Yeah. Well, he doesn't want to. It's a very long story that probably is not going to get communicated. But I think probably the world's going to end relatively soon, and I think he's like working on that pretty hard to stop it. I mean.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was like, fucking apocalypse. Yeah. He's trying to stop it. The end of the world. I'm just curious because you said, I feel like you can't, if you do have kids, you cannot tell them, I wasn't feeling your dad at all. Like I wasn't into
Why
him.
can't I tell them that?
Well, you could.
I will definitely tell them that.
Oh, you'll definitely tell them
Yeah,
that.
if I had them.
Do you tell, like, he's not upset by that? Like,
But it's the truth.
Sure, it's the truth, but I mean, it feels like it would be hurtful if the person who
but
you're...
pain is just coming into contact with reality, and then when you're in contact with it, it doesn't hurt anymore.
I need LSD for this. No, just kidding. No, it's just like, you know what I mean? Like if I was dating a girl and I was like, BTW, I thought you were ugly at first, and I faked an orgasm.
Yeah, but wouldn't you want to know that?
I had to like force myself to have sex with you. Like, I feel like she would take it the wrong way. You know what I mean?
I mean, he told me that I wasn't that pretty once when I was trying to have a tender
You
moment.
posted a tweet about it.
Yeah,
we
I
have
did.
it. Pull it up. Pull up the tweet.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. I was like, ow.
Damn.
Yeah.
Like,
But it's actually
Wait,
true.
he just said you're not that pretty.
Yeah, he said I'm not that pretty. Because I was like, I'm afraid that people, you know how people like kind of tell each other, girl, you're so hot. I'm like, everybody's incentivized to say positive things about each other's appearance. Like, I don't actually understand. And I did actually run a face rating survey so I could determine my own attractiveness, and I'm a 4.6. So I'm in fact actually not that pretty.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You should, we should get you to do some like surveys for our podcast.
No, wait, she's doing my survey first.
I will do both of your surveys.
There we go. We've collected quite a bit of data from the show. It's pretty
Really?
interesting.
Like what?
Oh, I mean, nothing on the scale of what you're doing, but simple things like total appearances, like the breakdown of like who's involved in sex work, the amount of people who've canceled, who've
What's
flipped
the
on
percentages? Do you know?
I think it's about 15% of all the panelists have been involved in sex work or OnlyFans or something like that. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Age, relationship status, this sort of thing. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Do you have like in a spreadsheet?
Sort of, yes. It's very rudimentary though. So we can talk after the show though. And, it'd be interesting to get some stuff done.
Okay.
Do we have her tweet pulled up? All right, so this is brutal. And scroll down because this is like a quote tweet in response to somebody else. Scroll down. Don't go too far though. Put us on the other side. All right, just hide us for a sec. All right, so this is in response. Being a girl's boyfriend is all about committing to the bit that she is a 10-10 and the most beautiful woman you have ever seen. Scroll up, and then you write, scroll up. Aella, let me just have you read it in your voice.
One of my partners once was like, you're not that pretty during a tender moment. I rolled over in the fetal position and groaned for like an hour, and then he went and made me an I'm sorry card out of construction paper and markers and stickers.
Okay, so this is the guy who you told, like, you forced yourself to have sex with him.
Yes.
And you weren't attracted to him.
Yeah.
And you told him this.
Yes.
How did he take that?
He was like, oh.
He's just like, oh, no reaction?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm attracted to him now.
Okay, now you're attracted to him.
Yeah.
How many, like, did you have to force having sex with him, like, multiple times? Or
No,
was
the
it just
sixth, I think the sex
first
got
time?
better by about the 6th time.
The 6th time?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Huh.
And now it's the best sex I've
What you
ever
got?
had in my life.
Lily, you got something? Or?
Pardon?
Oh, I thought you. It sounded.
Sorry, that might be
Oh,
you.
okay.
Because I don't think I would have given till the 6th time. So I'm just impressed that if it wasn't good by the 2nd, I'm done.
Well, I think there are other benefits going for him. Like he was really high status in my community, and I think that that's quite attractive.
Yeah.
And so if a guy is like really interesting for other reasons, usually you can like be like, all right, I'm gonna go make myself have sex with you because I'm interested in bonding with you.
And you say when you say your community, what do you mean?
Like the
CNC
rationalist community.
What is that?
It's have you heard of Less Wrong?
Less wrong.
Less Wrong. It's a long story. I don't know how much time I want to take up.
Or what
but
is that?
no, it's a blog. It was a blog. It's written by Eliezer Yudkowsky about like how to think less wrong. So it like covers a lot of cognitive biases, and like we do prediction markets. I did a prediction market when I was coming on this show of whether
Right.
I'd regret it.
If you'd regret it.
Yeah, and
I
it's
saw
at
that.
27%.
27% chance you would regret
that I would regret it, yes.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's
I
not
think
that
that's
bad.
pretty good. It's not that bad. How's it going so far?
Yeah.
Little regret?
Yeah, no regret so far.
So far?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, it's a lot of like, how do you actually develop true beliefs about the world? Because a lot of the time when people are thinking things, they're not like making like really concerted efforts to make their beliefs map onto reality. So if you can like make it so that if it hurts, if you're wrong, that means you actually are incentivized to update in a way that most people are like really enjoy lying to themselves about a lot of things.
So you use a correspondence theory for truth?
I don't know what that means.
Well, you just said that the truth is the thing which maps onto reality. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's correspondence theory.
Okay. Just moving on here, you said that you study fetishes with an emphasis in gaps in sexuality between males and females. You've collected what is probably the largest comprehensive data set on human sexuality in the world. Are you like published in any like journals or scientific, like
No.
academic journals?
Well,
or
I
anything
don't
like
get
that?
clearance by the IRB. I have no academic association
Okay.
or formal training. So
curious.
it's there is one paper that is going through the things right now in conjunction with Jeffrey Miller, who's an academic in EvoPsych. But yeah, I did a survey that basically I designed to go viral, and it did successfully go viral. And now we have a total of about 800,000 completed responses for was a 40-minute survey of extremely extensive about human sexuality. So there's a whole bunch of interesting stuff. Like if you want correlations about body count, I have a whole bunch of data of the kinds of people that have high body count versus low body count.
Yeah, no, I looked at some of it. I didn't look at everything you've published, but it's interesting stuff. You said that there's...
Yeah, but isn't it true that oftentimes, and I saw some deleted tweets, you can help me out with this, but oftentimes your sample sizes for these various surveys you do, they're preloaded with tons of teenagers?
Yes, it's primarily young. I think the average age is 22, with like a median is a little bit lower than that.
Yeah, isn't that a pretty biased sample size?
Absolutely. It's not representative of the general population, but there are ways to check.
I mean, why should we take any of it seriously then? Like any of this data?
That's a great question, actually. So the majority of all published data in sex science is either equally or more so biased than what I have. And also there's like methods of checking.
Wait, hang on. Let's do a claim at a time here before you gish gallop around. What is your demonstration or evidence that most sex scientific data is more biased than your data?
By biased, I mean the selection effects cause it to be less representative than the general population.
Like what?
Generally, it's you get like 30 to 40 undergrads in a college is very common.
Yeah, but that's not a demonstration that most sex data is biased in comparison to yours. Even if that was the case, that would not be proof or evidence that more of it is biased than your own data.
You can, I mean, mostly it's just from reading a whole bunch of papers. I just have read a bunch of papers and also talked to a bunch of academics.
Yeah, but how's that a demonstration, though, that most sex data is less biased than your sex data, which is loaded with teenagers who are definitely not a good sample size of the general population at all?
Yes. So there's like really interesting things about like how to balance selection effects to develop like good extrapolation. So one, you can also pay random samples to sort of spot check to see in what ways that your sample deviates from the normal population, which I do this often. I will, if there are things that seem particularly unusual, I will go spot check to see exactly how different my sample is.
Yeah,
and
that's just a basic control. Like these are all using that basic control. Like I would assume would be present in any professional sex
It
study, or at least
unfortunately
most
is
of them.
not. It really isn't. I know it's shocking, but
What's the
most sex
percentage,
research
Ben? What's the
does not.
percentage where basic controls are not being used in sociological studies, which are being done at universities?
I have not made a spreadsheet out of all of the studies that I have read and whether or not they have controls.
Yeah, so you don't have anything backing this up at all?
What do you have a spreadsheet?
I don't need one. You're the claimer.
You do,
not
actually.
me. I'm not-
How many
no, first
how
of
many
all,
papers
hang
on sex
hang
research have you read?
Let's say I made a spreadsheet right now and I just put all of this is bullshit and then mapped out that it's all bullshit. What would that have to do with anything that we're talking about? I would not need a spreadsheet in order to question basic methodology. When you make these bold claims like, oh, my studies, the ones that I'm doing, actually are less biased than ones which are done by professional universities. And I say, wow, that's a really bold claim. I'm sure you can demonstrate that. And you go, no, actually I can't. I actually can't demonstrate that. It's like, well then why should any of that be taken seriously?
I've just read a whole bunch of studies, and the vast majority of them, like the biggest data sample size I've read maybe is like 8,000 people. And generally, for example, if you're looking at BDSM, I was like, oh, I wonder what research has been done on BDSM and the kinds of people who like BDSM compared to my sample, for example. And most of the research is, for example, people will go to BDSM forums and then they post a link to the survey. This is academics. This is the published research on this. It's not great.
This is one.
I'm giving an example of something that is very common for all of it.
I'm not looking for your outlier examples of when
they're not outliers. They're really not. And
yeah.
I'm really.
You don't have a spreadsheet.
I have.
Right? Don't you need to have a spreadsheet to show that
I have read
all the controls
basically all of the studies on BDSM that I can find. It's possible that there's a bunch of them I haven't found that all of them mysteriously have good controls.
They don't use spot check for peer review study, really.
Not like the thing is, you don't necessarily have to, right? It depends on the kinds of things that you're measuring. It's very specific on the data.
The controls are going to be variable based on the sample
I need you
size.
guys to both make a closing statement on this. I don't really find this particularly material to the conversation.
There's no good reason. So I went through a bunch of your data, right? And since it's preloaded with essentially teenagers on Twitter and teenagers in other places who are overloading the sample size, not representative of anything, like nothing. There's really no good reason to believe it at all.
Representative teenagers.
Even if it were the case that it were true, that it's still less biased than what is being put forward by sociologists and sex studies facilities somewhere or universities, that still wouldn't prove your data is good. Even if all their data was wrong, still wouldn't prove your data is good.
I agree.
It would just prove its bias.
But it's selection effects, not necessarily bias. But in general, I agree. And this is why there's lots of techniques that we can use to determine exactly the ways in which it is not representative. And it's a long story, but I can go into all of those techniques that I have.
Sorry, he said it was a
He asked me to do closing
okay.
statements, so I thought that I was supposed to just do a summary.
Time permitting, we can maybe come back to the discourse about validity of surveys and self-reporting and so forth, but I do need to move things on. But you did you said there's about a 1.5 times ratio gap of dominance for submission in both directions? Mm-hmm. You mean like in relationships or?
No, in general. Like if you.
Or are you talking about BDSM?
Like for when I asked the men, which was like 250,000 people or something, this holds true even if you delete all of the teenagers and you look at older people. But the people who report, like around 1.5 as many women report being into submission as there are men who report being into dominance. And there are also around 1.5 times the amount of men interested in submission as there are women interested in the amount of dominance. It's just the absolute numbers are lower, which is really fascinating.
Okay. Have to work. Stay-at-home mom. Should she submit to his authority unconditionally? Going around the table.
Unconditionally?
Unconditionally.
I'm afraid that if I'm going to take so many issues with the definitions of words that everybody's going to be annoyed. Unconditionally.
What do you mean? I absolutely love getting into the definition of words and semantics.
Well, we already talked about this particular conversation for quite a bit.
And see if we agree or disagree with it.
I mean, it's conditional on him being him, right? So like if we enter a transhumanist future where you slowly change all the atoms in his body until he no longer is himself.
Yeah,
You cannot unconditionally be only one person.
The question pertinent to a transhumanist future.
It is conditional, right? There is no condition under which one would not submit. And I just find that, anyway, this is why I'm saying we should, people will be annoyed.
Well, then the answer would be no.
Yes.
Yeah, so then
Go
I
ahead.
don't know why you needed the word defined if you already knew that the answer was no. That's really weird. It almost seems like you're being pedantic.
I am a weird person.
No, that's not weird. That's pedantry. And the thing is, like, if it is the case that you know what's being asked and then you purposely obfuscate, right? That's what I was talking about earlier about low tier. Just so you know. That's what that means.
Oh, thanks for letting me know I'm low tier.
You're welcome. At least your philosophy is.
Well, Andrew, without finding out the facts, proof that no one should ever listen to a 304. Maybe go back to S-ing the D.
What's a 304?
That is an area code.
Isn't it a hoe?
It is an area code, Ayla. In Virginia, I think, right? Isn't it in Virginia?
Also an e-girl.
I thought it was a hoe.
Yeah.
It's
online.
yes, a strumpet. As you
Did like
will.
hoes tend to come from this one area code?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
This is news to
It's
me.
crazy. Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah, I think I just don't. I'm not familiar with traditional debate tactics that people use when they're trying to win wars. You know, like metaphorical wars. It's pretty hard.
I think earlier on, Andrew thought you were trying to do some debate judo on me, and he's like, "Hold on." As what, Andrew? What's the title I gave you?
I still think that.
Andrew, what's the title I gave you? Kumquat defensor. What was it?
Yeah, that was it was a bad title, Brian. We don't talk about the title, Brian.
Andrew is he is the defensor, like King Henry. He defended the Catholic faith when he was king, and the Pope gave him a title. Oh my God, I can't. It's Fide Defensor, I think. Defender of the faith. Andrew is defender of the whatever podcast, and I gave him a Latin title. Quodcumque defensor. That's how you say whatever in Latin. So he is the he's like my champion, who I send into combat to fucking Aikido my enemies or detractors.
Wait, shouldn't I like the thought of like not being defensive and then like getting hurt if you should be hurt. Oh wait, you were
Wait.
making a joke. Were you
Wait,
joking?
Huh?
No.
Were you? Wait, what's going on?
You can explicitly state what's happening, and then I would be more comfortable. I think I was just trying to say something like, I like social norms where you sort of admit if you're wrong pretty fast, and then the conversation, and it's not like losing to be wrong. And I think a lot of the time, like, you're trying to get one over on your opponent, such that if you like score a point, it's like very embarrassing if you prove that they're wrong. But it's like pretty cool to admit if you're wrong. That means you update. That means that we get closer to finding out what's happening, and I think that's like pretty dope.
I'd rather just gaslight somebody and just make them think. I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Thank you
All
for stating that.
I'm just
I don't think
joking.
Andrew's kidding though. Look at
I was just saying, I did a survey with my community. They all thought I was autistic too, so I guess.
Oh,
I'm
yeah?
autistic.
But were you diagnosed by a psychiatrist?
It doesn't matter. The metric
Well,
is
now
if
it
the
doesn't
community
matter.
says so. If the
If they
community
say-
says so, then it must be true.
If they say,
I mean,
Says
I didn't say that.
oh,
Yeah, I know. That was a joke.
Oh.
Oh, that totally went over my head. I didn't
Okay.
find that funny at all.
engaging in fraudulent conduct.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either. And I've seen a lot of people that will pretend to fall in love or just send me this, right? And that's a really dangerous game to play, and that's not fair to the guy either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about fake orgasms?
Fake orgasms.
Yeah.
I don't think people should do it in relationships. I think you should communicate openly with your partner if there's things that they can improve on, so you can
Yeah.
climax. But
So I meant like, I guess in porn or OnlyFans.
oh, in porn and OnlyFans.
Yeah, like if somebody like fakes an orgasm.
Isn't that just the industry? Like the women just fake their orgasms?
Yeah,
Sure. Okay. Sure.
Yeah, I guess,
really
I don't
have a
know. Maybe
position.
there's a spectrum. Maybe you could design a spectrum of like the kinds of things where fraud is bad or not. I also
Well,
don't mean this as a gotcha. I'm just like genuinely.
Well, I mean, but like, what about actresses in films where there's a sex scene and
yeah.
they
So I guess maybe it's like
climax?
implied
I mean,
knowledge, like implied, like if somebody's
Well,
signing up for OnlyFans, they expect
I think
it
like
to be
if
real.
a woman fakes an orgasm in like a pornographic film, I don't think. I mean, you know, like the pizza guy knocks on the door. I mean, that's also not. He's not actually a pizza guy, and she's not actually in her house, and it's. I mean, it's cinema. Right, so I don't really have objections if a woman fakes an orgasm for porn, like in porn. I was thinking of it from the lens of like a relationship, but that's not what you're talking about. But But what I'm speaking about is like, let's say a woman makes an affirmative claim, like, you're talking to me, and like in so doing, she's like inducing these men. Oh, I'm actually talking to her, not some like Filipino man in the Philippines being paid $10 a day to like type, whatever. And so if like she's charging people for the conversations or whatever, charging for the chats, and you're like, if a company says, hey, you can talk to X celebrity, and somebody pays knowing that they're like, actually, oh, I'm actually talking to, I don't know if this is actually service, like, I don't know, what if, like, you guys know Cameo, that app, where people, like, celebrity, that's on video, so they obviously can't fake that, but let's say there's like a voice thing or whatever, and like you can buy a voice recording from your favorite celebrity, but then you find out that they hired a impersonator who does like a really good impersonation of the celebrity. I think that would be like, that would meet the definition of civil fraud. Yeah. And I mean, you might think, oh, well, buyer beware, like you should know better, blah, blah, blah. But I do think, like, if you're making a representation, whether you're in, you have a company and you're selling like nutritional products to people, or you're a sex worker, I think like you should try to make like truthful statements that are not like misrepresenting and are not fraudulent, as in an effort to induce somebody to like purchasing your product. Yeah,
I definitely strongly sympathize with this. I generally like think lying is pretty bad. It's unclear to me to the degree to which men know that what they're doing when they're signing up for OnlyFans. Like as an example, like I run my main OnlyFans, and then for a while I decided to experiment with hiring a chatter on my free OnlyFans. And the chatter was terrible. They weren't like me at all. They typed like all caps, XOXO, BB, my P, whatever, so horny for you, BB. It was like really atrocious, had nothing to do with me, and my income just skyrocketed based off of that. And I was like, oh, these guys like have actually no understanding.
While they're in it, but even afterwards, they can struggle a little bit. But
I think that's a fair point.
So that could be an interesting conversation. Also, Andrew wants to have a 1v1 with Aella and Candace. Well,
for what?
Not a shoot. Not a shoot. He wants to have like a debate. If you're down.
I do not like his debate norms because I don't trust him to be truth-finding. Seems more like horror. But I'm down for a truth-finding.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. No. Just give me a descriptor for what truth is. Is truth subjective or objective?
Like, that's a great example.
Yeah, that great example of what?
Of your debate norms.
Yeah, of us clarifying debate norms?
Yeah. I think I'm mostly interested in finding out what's going on instead of, like, trying to do public battle. I think you relate to debate as public battle, which makes sense to do.
Sometimes. It depends.
I don't think I really have that.
If you're looking for just pure fact-finding or fact versus fact, I'm happy to do those too. You can do what's called formal or time debate, where you can match facts against facts. I just think your facts are wrong, and I can demonstrate that via debate. If you prefer a less adversarial form of debate, then we would do a formal debate, which would be
like to know if I'm wrong.
You could put your facts up, and then I could debunk them all.
I would like to know if I'm wrong. I would hope that you like to know if you're wrong, and then maybe we can like help each other figure out.
I'm never wrong. I'm a man. What's wrong with you?
Oh yeah, I apologize.
Never wrong. Never.
Sorry,
wrong.
sir.
No, wrong. I'm wrong all the time. But in this case, your empirical data is really not good, and I would enjoy actually doing a debate on the empirical data that you put out as though it's.
So sorry.
I know I did something, or I'm going to do something, so I'll just. As a prophylactic, really.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Also, props. Admitting error is super cool and often hard to do. So.
You cannot pick 7. Rate your own looks, scale of 1 to 10, starting with Aella.
4.6.
4.6. Is there anything past the 6, like a 333, like repeating, of course?
No, I mean, probably, but I don't know the number.
You don't? Okay. What, Candace, what about you?
Oh my gosh, I want to participate in.
Is the self-assessment mapping onto reality, or isn't it? Right?
So when you say... I did a survey on this specifically to see how delusional people are.
Calm down with your surveys. I know, but calm down.
But I know how delusional people are.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's true, right?
Yeah, about like 2.5 points.
The thing is like, they often actually will lie and know that they're lying if there's a social group around them which reinforces that lie, right? So if there's no judgment going towards them from the people around them, they'll actually lie, often on purpose, because it's reinforced. Now, this is notoriously true of women in a room, but not notoriously true of men. They tend to not really do that because the man next to them will be like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're fat. Or the man next to him will be like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? You got half your face is missing. Or what are you talking about? Your teeth are jacked up, right? They'll instantly look at each other and just beat the holy hell out of each other. They'll be like, dude, you're full of shit. And it's obvious you're full of shit. But for women, they don't actually do that. They'll actually reinforce things they don't believe themselves. So, for instance, let me ask a question to the entire panel just to kind of demonstrate this. Have any of you women, do you agree that when women are around each other, they judge each other all the time, nonstop, that this happens constantly, that women will judge each other on looks, on outfits, on all sorts of different things, on which eyelashes are better, which makeup is better? They don't say it out loud, but you're just judging it in your head. Do you agree that women do this?
Do you not do that with everybody?
Yeah.
I
Not saying you
think
do it
both
with
men
everybody.
and women do that.
I'm not saying that men and women don't do it.
I try really hard to
Back to
practice.
the question, do you agree that women do this?
In a form of
Just
comparison?
like anyone else.
Yeah, okay, great. So can we agree then, by a show of hands, that women do this? Do women judge each other
Constantly?
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 Well, I don't know about constantly,
I
but
try to practice not being judgmental. It's
Yeah.
really hard to do, but it's a
Okay, well, let
something
me
to
ask you a
learn.
different way. Raise your hand if you've ever sat at a table with women and judged them.
Definitely.
Raise your hand. Okay, so that's everybody here, right? Now, raise your hand if you sat down at this table and judged any other women.
and judge the women here.
One person.
Yeah.
It depends on what you mean by judge.
I know
Maybe.
the judgment
You're
sounds.
judging their looks. Their looks is what I mean. You judge
Yeah.
their
Sounds
looks,
negative.
their
I
think
makeup,
it's-
their
I think it's
dress,
like a
their
concept
this,
in
their
your head
So
that you're-
anyway, so real quick, I'll ask again. Now that you know what judgment means in this context.
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't. Okay. So
No, I just
you're
want to clarify.
judging-
Legitimately,
you're
I think
judging whether or not their makeup looks good or doesn't look good, or if they should have worn a different outfit or should have worn a different
Oh,
outfit,
see,
et cetera, et
no.
cetera.
I haven't had
No.
those
You're
thoughts.
making a judgment of beauty standards.
No, for me it would not be judgment. It would be more comparison. It would not be, oh, they should have worn
That's
this.
a
or that.
judgment.
No,
Yeah, that's a
there's
judgment.
yes, it is. You're correct. Comparison is a form of judgment. But what you're talking about is much more harsh. Of like, ew, like versus like, oh, did they look nicer than
Yeah,
I
like,
do?
I
or
like that
something
top.
oh,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so. There's
Sure. Yeah.
That's
yeah,
all
you
I'm
can-
saying. There is some nuance to
do
what
it
you're
that way
saying.
and say that you think, okay, well then let me ask it that way. Raise your hand if you sat down at the table and thought that there was a woman at the table who looked better than you. Okay, great. Raise your hand if you sat down at the table and thought there was another woman there who looked worse than you. So wait a second. So then how come it was when I asked if you sat down and judged the other women at the table, none of you showed your fucking hands?
But
That
you
depends
have
what
like
you meant by judge.
a
You said
trillion
comparison,
thoughts a
yeah.
day. It's not.
I mean, it's that simple every single time, right?
No, it's not. Like judge means a couple of things. Sometimes there's like a sensation
it's
of
a couple
disdain.
things.
No, listen. Sometimes there's a sensation of disdain, and this is what people refer to when they say the word judge. And sometimes it means like sort of evaluation, like you're checking your position in the hierarchy. And definitely the latter, but not the former. And I just didn't know which one you were talking about.
As well, sometimes
Well,
I
you
have.
seem a lot less confused now.
Why
Yes,
is it a
because you
woman thing
clarified.
though? Anyway, men
That's
do
how it
this
works.
constantly
Yeah.
too. So I guess I'm a little confused as to why this is a female
It's
thing.
not.
you're pointing
It's not
out.
whether
Oh,
or not.
what's
it's
your
a
point
woman
then?
thing
Who
or-
do you think
Hang
is your
on,
looks
hang on.
match?
Hang on.
Here.
Chill out. Let me answer one question at a
Everybody's
time.
freaking
Calm
out.
down. So I answer hers first, and I'll move to yours. So I asked this question, right? Raise your hand if you judge women. So well, okay. What do you mean by judgment? I clarified that. And he said, well, not all the time. So then I asked this follow-up question. I ask you, well, raise your hand if you judged a woman at the table. You say, none of you raise your hand. Then I say, well, raise your hand if you sat down at the table and thought that another woman who was there was more attractive than you, and you all raised your hand. Therefore, all of you are admitting you made a judgment, so you all fucking lied. Every one of you.
But I also.
Your logic stream isn't very good.
Also, on the way here, I had a thought
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's pretty
It's
good.
not though. It really
Yeah,
isn't.
it is,
Would you like me to explain how it's not?
I can't wait to hear it.
Okay. Well, basically, you said the word judge, and then it was kind of unclear what you meant. And then I would have raised your hand if you had said the thing that you meant, but you didn't. And then
That's pure code. So I did.
It
I
isn't.
did actually reiterate what I meant, and I said I was judging based on beauty standards. If you're making your assessment about beauty standards, which you then later admitted you were.
I am very
So the
happy
thing
to
is
admit.
what you're doing now is an even lower tier form of pedantry, because you can rewind the tape and see that I
It- like-
specifically with you. Hang on, with you specifically clarified exactly what I meant. The rest of the panel heard it, and then that's when I asked the follow-up
You
question.
didn't.
So
You did
nobody
not
was
clarify.
confused.
You said
Not only
words
did
that were not the
not only
things
did
you
I
asked later.
clarify, but I was so hyper-specific.
You were not
that when I
hyper-specific.
asked the follow-up question, everybody knew what I meant, including you.
Yeah, the follow-up question was a great specificity. I really like the
And
follow-up
that's
question.
when we found out the two things, didn't we?
If you would like to say that checking yourself in the hierarchy is judgment, I'm very happy to agree that I judge people. I'm not
Great.
I'm not fighting over the word. I just really wanted to understand what you meant.
Yeah, I don't think you were confused about what I meant.
I was. I
And
am reporting that very
we
honestly.
were further able to demonstrate that by me clarifying, and then the second that I
No,
did,
you did
answered
not.
the question the same exact way as every other woman on the panel. It doesn't seem like you.
I think you are being dishonest in the way that you are arguing. I'm very happy to admit your point, but it feels like you sort of want to act like I'm being trapped in some sort of like verbal corner, which I don't think is really what's happening. But I'm happy to say that I judge things according to your definition.
In my world, though, what we call that is cope, and welcome to cope. That's what you're doing. You're coping. But it's okay for you to cope. Listen, it's all right for you to cope. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's true. I logically navigated you through this. I know it's difficult for you to admit, right? But it is the case.
Yeah.
What I'm showing is that I'm demonstrating that all of you fucking lied to me, and I don't even blame you, right?
Sure.
I understand the reason.
If we expand our definition of lying, then sure.
There's a reason why all of you did that, and
I did
the
not.
reason is because it's very easy for women in social circles. If one woman lies and the rest of them reinforce the lie, for them to continue with the lie. Men seem to be more commonly men seem to call out when men are telling lies, right? They go, no, that's fucking bullshit. Men would be laughing at each other. If let's say a man was sitting in chair 1, which is a panel of men, and the man was like, oh, I'm a 10. The other dude's heel would be like, what the fuck are you talking? They would start ribbing him immediately. Doesn't work the same way with women. That's why
I agree
the
with
answers
you.
are so bizarre from our view. We're like, what the fuck are they talking about?
I agree that women are significantly more responsive to social pressure and much more likely to lie to each other about their appearance. I think this is true. It's kind of weird because your end goal is something that I don't actually think is that off. It's
I
just
know,
I feel like
want to argue with me to argue. I get it.
I don't think I really like arguing for arguing's sake.
Well, I mean, that's arguing for argument's sake.
Do you know what you're saying? Or are you like an argument LLM?
What's an LLM?
A large language model.
What's a large language model?
A large language model is like a predictive text algorithm, trained on specific stuff. I would like to give you props to asking. I think some people would sort of disguise when they don't know things, but I think that was a high integrity move.
I never do. I always want to know exactly what I'm talking about before I talk about it, which just proves your previous.
But I would like to say that I would like to admit when you are good at things and then also say when I think that you are bad, and I think that was a good move, and I'm trying to be consistent according to my principles.
Great. And consistently, I'm really good at what I do. And this has been proven now to you multiple times. You got caught in the trap the same way everybody else did, for the same reason everybody else did.
I did not.
Because you lied. And so because you lied, you got caught in the same trap. That's the way it works.
You have an interesting definition of lying, but if we given your definition of lying, then sure, we can say that we lied.
What do you think my definition of lying is? You haven't even asked.
Okay, could I ask, what is your definition of lying?
Why did you make the claim about whether or not I was lying?
I had an assumption about what you meant.
Not even asking for it before you said that I was.
That was probably an error. Could you tell me what you mean by lying?
Probably was. What's that?
Could you tell me what you mean by lying?
Yeah, sure. Whatever your definition is, we'll go with that.
My definition is knowing, having a belief and then saying something contrary to that belief.
Oh, perfect.
Intentionally.
Yeah, you were lying.
It does not describe my internal state.
Yeah, no, I think it externally did, because what happened was you got clarification on a question. After you got the clarification on the question, you answered the exact same way that everybody else did, because previously you were asked
That's how it works.
a question that everybody understood, including you. You gave a different answer.
I did not understand.
Famous musicians or athletes or actors. Some of you live in LA. You know, these men, you have access to these men. Are they going to give you commitment? Not necessarily. How are you going to go date Leonardo DiCaprio and then end up with a normal dude? Your brain is totally fried. I don't think, in the same way that if you lived in a luxury apartment and then you're going to go live in a dorm room with 3 other people and share a bathroom, and it's really hard to have that certain level of treatment or experience when these women are dating really attractive men, and then be like, oh, okay, here's the guy who's actually here's the cohort of men who are actually willing to commit to me, but they're not as attractive as the men who are willing to sleep with me. They don't have as much status as these men who are willing to sleep with me. So I do think having a reasonable assessment of your own physical attractiveness would like indicate, is it a really good idea that I go fuck like this rock star, and then I'm going to be like completely sexually dissatisfied with like Joe Schmo average guy? Because like most average women are not attracted to average men. That's my position. Maybe you disagree. I don't know.
You've heard women talk about having this experience? You've heard women talk about having this experience? Like when they're trying to date,
I've
and then
had
like,
thousands of women who've come on the show and they're like completely average, and they're like, oh yeah, this famous guy's like in my DMs, and like I dated XYZ, I dated an NFL player, I did an NBA player.
Yeah.
They have that experience. And
I was just curious about the difficulty finding commitment part.
Well, what I'm saying is like when it comes to female hypergamy, is they can find commitment, but the men, it's like, how often do you hear women say something like, oh, the guy that I like, he doesn't like me, and the guys that like me, I don't like them. Like those are the guys who are willing to give them commitment. So they can find commitment, they just don't want it with those guys. They're continuously chasing after these men, and from like 18 to 30, they'll be chasing after these men and like situationship, one night stand, friends with benefits, boom, boom, boom. I'm not saying this is the case for all women. Plenty of women throughout their 20s will be in long-term relationships. But like this is the experience of a lot of women, and then ultimately when they're 30, they're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get married now, and then they're just totally dissatisfied with the men who are actually willing to commit to them, because they spent like their 20s fucking these like NFL, NBA players and so forth. And I'm using that as an extreme example, but it could just be like the like really attractive guy in your college that all the girls want.
Yeah. I think I was just checking if this was like a specific anecdote that you'd had, or more like theory, general observation you'd noticed over like extrapolating. I
mean, this is something that I think is observed in the dating marketplace. I mean, the statistics from the dating apps seem to indicate this, that women are overwhelmingly swiping on like the top 10% of men on dating apps.
Yeah, I know. I think this is definitely true. I think I was just curious. I'm trying to figure out how much of a bubble I'm in, basically. So I was just curious, like, if the thing was a general thing, like you have access to the same information I have, or if you're like, yeah, I've been talking to this women and they're like, wow, I was trying to find a relationship when I'm 30, but I fucked all these really incredible guys, and like, why can't I find a man as good as I was fucking?
Well, I mean, do you think that this could be a phenomenon where like once you've experienced a certain level of treatment, or like dated a certain like caliber of guy, it's kind of like hard to be like, and maybe you do end up settling with that other guy, but like in the dark recesses of your mind, you're like still like, oh man, this guy was better in like this dimension. Maybe it's the guy he was really generous, or he's really good in bed, big dick, whatever it is. Like he's really tall, really good looking, status, he took me on all these trips, and then you start creating an amalgamation of like all the like most amazing characteristics that like 10 different guys who you dated all have, and you're like, okay, I need that in one dude.
Yeah, I think it's a plausible theory. I think there might be some other theories that explain what's going on, but I genuinely really don't know which one's the right one.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to approach like the dating marketplace and everything that's going on.
Yeah,
but
or like, for example, alternative hypothesis might be like, there's a lot of men that I dated, but I sort of like in hindsight feel like I really should not be dating them anymore, in a way that's possibly, you could argue, that I've like downplayed all their good qualities. So maybe we have a psychological phenomenon where we like sort of don't remember how good people were because we're like, fuck those guys or something. I don't know if that's actually what's going on. I'm just giving like something that another theory we could test.
Yeah. Well, can I ask you a question? Like, have you had like, is there one partner in particular you've had who was like the most amazing in bed?
Definitely my current one.
What's that?
My current one, definitely.
Your current one. Okay. Yeah. How about like prior to him? Was there a gap where like you had a really amazing sexual experience with a certain guy, and then like guys after him like did not sexually satisfy you, and because they didn't like meet to that standard or that caliber of the previous men, you were like sexually dissatisfied?
To a minor degree, yes.
Okay.
I mean, most of them kinky. So like I've like had sex with a kinky guy, and then I've had sex with vanilla guys.
Like vanilla guys, right?
I was like, man, I wish I had sex with a kinky guy.
It's not as fulfilling, right? But I mean, you did have that experience, though.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
I think it's plausible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like, question, were you, while you were dating these men, maybe not necessarily during sex, were you thinking about like, oh man, this other guy was way better. You're doing comparison.
Not really.
Okay, that's fine.
To be fair, I'm abnormal. Like, I don't know if I'm representative. Possibly.
Like I'll give you a personal anecdote.
Yeah.
Like I think this can happen to men too. So, oh my God, I can't believe I'm Andrew, earmuffs. I feel, or I don't know. Never mind. You don't have to do earmuffs. So it's like, okay, in the same way that like women, once you fall on like you're playing Russian roulette, you're like rolling the dice, and then you land on like the dick. You know, it doesn't like he's just that good in bed.
Yeah.
You know. This shit. Okay. We got some bi women
Yeah,
here.
I feel like.
You're
Sorry, I'm bi. Yeah.
Yeah. You what?
Look. All pussy is good, but some pussy is better than other. Like I don't know, like a woman who's like multi-orgasmic who can come in like 5 seconds, and then she can have like multiples and like come like 20 times in a row, and it's super easy. And then you're gonna like deal with a girl who like you need to fucking jackhammer to like make her come like a quarter of the way to a climax. It's like, okay, that's kind of like you've been accustomed to a woman who can come, and then like that also feels really good, both like physically and psychologically in terms of the psychological stimulation. So it's kind of like. Once it's like, how do you go back to like the woman who's like obviously people are more than just like the sexual experience. There's other components to a relationship. Like, do you get along with them? Are they a good person? Are they pleasant? So it's not just the sex, but I'm just like within that realm of like sex. It's hard to go from like multi-orgasmic fucking crazy, and then you're going to date the girl who's like, she doesn't really get that wet, and it's like impossible. It's like super hard to make her come. It's like, fuck.
Are you having this problem right now?
Oh my God. Okay, look, I've engaging in bad faith pedantry. The quintessential Bill Clinton depends on what the meaning of the word is. Do you want to respond super quick to this?
I mean, I just want to know what people mean. It's really genuine.
Sure. Jason?
I think that's fair to always get clarification on what a person means. The portion where it becomes pedantic is if the person gives you what they mean, and then you refuse to accept what they mean.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes pedantry.
If that did happen, that does sound.
I do have a request of Aella. Aella, have you seen the movie American Pie?
No.
You haven't seen American Pie?
I was homeschooled.
You can.
Yeah.
There's this line. Can you say, "This one time at band camp"?
This one time at band camp.
It was okay. All right, never mind. Just sometimes the flow of your like kind of the what's the word for it? Cadence. Thank you. It reminds me of
Her.
The
I should watch
Allison Hannigan, I think, from American Pie. So the band camp girl. Okay. I need to get through all the. Oh, actually, wait. We did do the rating thing. Yeah, I think I pretty much wrapped up on that. The only question I have follow up on that is, do you think you'll be better looking in 10 years' time? You're 32. Will you be better looking in 10 years' time at 42?
No, definitely not.
Okay, and you're 32. Were you better looking at 22 than you are now at 32?
So not once, like in a day. I feel like you need to actually like work for it and get to that third knot.
Yeah, like
because then it's so much.
Who,
Have some
the
skills.
It's
guy?
more meaningful.
The guy or the girl?
the guy.
I don't know. I'm 35. Maybe when I was 18, 23. Okay, I'm good. One a day, I'm okay.
I feel like when you get there though, it's the better orgasm. The
What do you
third,
mean?
fourth, fifth
No,
one.
I'm like in pain
Of the
after
day.
Shit. God damn.
When was the last time you tried?
When's the last time?
You tried to go
Honestly,
for the fourth and
I
fifth.
can't believe I'm going to answer this fucking question. When's the last time I've had 3 orgasms in a day? Hold on, let me think.
Yeah, you're lazy if you just spunk him once.
That guy away.
There's this one girl. She just, I don't know, it was fucking the first Trump administration. How about that?
Oh man.
Yeah, it's been a
been a
look,
minute.
I'm good once. Sometimes I'll do twice, okay? Sometimes. I don't know. Look, after what once
Gotta work on that.
even
Yeah,
when I was-
men are lazy these
what?
days.
Why y'all? No, hold on. Just to be clear. First off, the girl has to come first. If possible, she's gonna come multiple times. But I'm not trying to have like sex 10 times in the night. She has to do my laundry.
Weak.
She has to do. Oh, chill out.
Beta male.
Chill out. She has to do my laundry. There's time for her to do my laundry and bow and cook dinner. Okay, that's the time. Also, it's like sex. It's like, okay, look, you've had sex. Sex is great. Don't get me wrong. Sex is great, right? But it's like, how about the other like 12 hours I'm spending with you? Like, you have to make yourself more appealing than just having a pussy.
Not some of us.
That
Not some of us.
I don't know.
I can't imagine you having sex. I'm trying to picture it in my head.
Don't visualize it. I don't consent to you visualizing it. I do not.
I'm undressing you with my eyes.
That's crazy.
Should we draw fan art later?
What was I don't know where I was going with this. Why did I reveal this? Terrible.
No, I do appreciate it.
Move on. I did.
Then
Okay.
that's like.
Going around the table, do you think body count matters? And do you think men who do care about body count, who maybe would disqualify a woman if she had a high body count, whatever that might be for him, do you think that would be him being insecure? Starting with you, Aella.
Yes, it would be him being insecure, but also I strongly defend the right of people to be insecure. And I think this is
to have
fine.
preferences. All right. Aella, and then we'll go around this way, starting with you. Go ahead.
Probably low 500s and 109 free.
Wait, 109 free.
Like unpaid.
Unpaid.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many do
Gotcha.
you think paid? Or
Well, I have a CRM, but I haven't updated it in a bit. So probably around 450, I think, clients I've had.
Do you have an exact number or not?
I can go look. I did look up the exact number at one point, but my guess
It's it's about 500.
My guess is around 450 paid and around it's 109 specifically. I have a spreadsheet unpaid.
109 unpaid,
Yeah.
500 paid. Okay.
450-ish,
Or
but yeah.
450.
So
okay.
roughly the total
Like
should be
550.
low 50s, low 500s, maybe 550.
Okay, got
I
it.
don't want to claim more valor than
People that are like more likely to be single, that you're more likely to encounter when you're dating. But
Yeah, I have the data on this, at least.
Okay.
I mean, it's a relatively liberal population, so it's probably slightly inflated, but it raises at least the median. I mean, depending on if you want the median or average, raises to around 10 when people hit about 40. So
10 at 40.
yeah, so my guess is it's slightly inflated, but not significantly.
But I'm just wondering if they're like including the 60 and 70-year-olds. They're so far removed from the dating pool.
So my graph goes like this, and it slowly evens out at 40 with a very slight increase at that point. So
Yeah.
like 50, 60-year-olds in my data were closer to like, maybe I think it was like 15 people or something.
Interesting.
But this is median, not average. So median is like when you split the population half and half, and then average outliers can pull that up really high. The average body count for older people in my data set specifically, which again is liberal, was around like, I think low 20s, 20 something.
So, and when you say older people, like 40 to 50? or
Like
what
people
are
in
we-
their 50s and 60s. My
50s
sample
and
size for that
60s.
was a lot lower, so
Yeah.
low confidence.
Interesting.
But-
Okay. And do you, like, if we're looking at projections, do you think like people who are 20 now, do you think that that'll be their body counts when they're 50?
I mean,
or?
unclear. Like I didn't track
sure.
across time. It's possible that like different generational pressures will cause different body counts.
Yeah. But to me, it's like, I don't know, going to college, 5? I don't know.
But going to college is in itself a big selection. Like
But a lot of women, like, don't
Yeah,
the
but-
majority of people go to college?
what is it, like 60% of people?
And well, there's even more women who go to college. But like, I remember when I was in college, and this was before the dating apps. Granted, Santa Barbara's a bit of a party, anyways. Maybe I'm biased a little bit here, but the shit I saw anecdotally, and then just like, if a woman has a 5 body count in her first freshman fall quarter semester, she's a saint. Like, I mean, not really, but like, that's kind of like, it's kind of relatively, it's kind of low.
Like where I grew up is extremely high. I think this is very cultural. Like
Because I mean, my own experience is like going out, a lot of these girls, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, they're in college, they're drinking, partying, doing drugs. And like, I think actually there's some studies that indicate that like Gen Z, they're actually drinking and partying way less. I think there's probably a bunch of reasons for that. But like when I was in college, like it was super, super common. Like you were an outlier if you weren't like partying in college, drinking in college, right?
Yeah.
Now it seems, anyways, with Gen Z, it's a little bit shifting, a little different. But like these girls would go out and sleep with a new guy maybe once a week. Sometimes they do like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, maybe 1, 2, 3 guys in a weekend.
Yeah.
So for a girl to just like have a, like you say the average is 5, I'm thinking back to my college experiences. I'm like, they do that. Yeah. They do 10 or 20 their freshman year.
No, I agree. I like, have serious doubts too. It's just the person that was bringing up the study, and I don't know if you can find it or not, or like at least that podcast host that was saying the statistic, it didn't seem truthful. No.
Well, a lot of the U.S. is very religious. I mean, were those people going and partying religious? Like, my guess is you like fell into a certain section of people that were likely to party. All the religious people are staying home.
Wait a second. When you say a good portion of the U.S. is very religious, what do we mean by very religious? Do we mean that they self-identify as being religious, or do we mean that they're actually practicing the religion?
Yeah, I think we could check maybe church attendance as a proxy. I agree that there are a lot of lukewarm Christians. I used to be very Christian.
Just the self-ID is not going to cut it.
I understand the argument. But even if you are just self-IDing and not walking the walk quite as hard, still being in a culture that like really has pressures against it, I think it's still going to bring the body count down.
Atheists are in the same culture, so that makes no sense, right? So atheists are in the same culture as the self-ID'd Christians. And if the self-ID'd Christians aren't doing church attendance or any of the Christian things, then how are they not just in the same culture that the atheists are in?
I agree, but I think a good portion of the U.S. does go to church pretty regularly, which I agree is not proof that they are...
No, a good portion of the U.S. doesn't go to the church or go to
I could be wrong.
Regularly. They go occasionally. That's the vast majority of the self-ID Christians.
We can just check.
The ones, though, who are more rigorous have completely different stats, right? So the ones who are more rigorous, they're going to have different stats when it comes to how many children they've had. They're going to have different stats when it comes to STDs. You're going to have different stats for all these things. So it does seem that the more rigorous that you're practicing the religion, the more that this would be a determining factor, right? So that's why I want to clarify whether we're just talking about self-ID or actual rigorism, because then the numbers greatly change, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is reflected in my data. You are correct.
So I'm not willing to say then that the vast majority are religious, like you're saying. Then I think that is almost strawmanning your own position.
I don't think I said vast majority, but we can just check the data.
You did. You said the vast majority of are religious.
I don't think I did, but if I did, I misspoke. I think they're a good chunk of we can just check we can Google it. And if it's like, oh, it's 30%, I'll be like, sure, I'm down to say 30%. But I just think that
the best place for this is Pew, right? Not just Google. You go to Pew Research.
Yeah,
Pew Research actually dove into this and looked at the rigorism versus the non-rigorism when it came to the studies. And we can see that the more rigorous you are, the more that these things actually apply to you versus just self-ID. The only reason I'm being hyper-specific here, because I know you love that, is also because I want to make sure that when you're giving out this data, when you say to Brian, well, most people are religious, or well, I'm not sure. We got to be careful with that language, right? When you're giving stats, especially your own.
I'm not giving my own stats for most people are religious. I just thought there's a bunch of people in the U.S. who are in religious culture, and we're just generally not seeing them when we go to party colleges. If you're partying in a college and people are going out drinking, you're probably not seeing good, God-fearing Christians who are going to church. They're not included in that sample. So,
well, maybe they used to party, but now they're Christian.
Maybe.
Andrew calls this the great...
In this case, you just saying, well, the sample size from my view was small, doesn't actually mean anything.
It means something. It doesn't mean nothing.
You could, well, maybe, but maybe not.
It indicates the level of confidence we can draw from the.
Yeah, but what is okay? Well, then what is small? Tell me what small is.
We have to pull up the study.
Well, you can do a calculation on the level of confidence.
Yeah,
so it
tell me what small is. She says it's small, but won't.
I would say for me, anything under 1,000, I would consider a small sample size. Like if I were to pull one person at this table and say.
And are you saying that?
Wait, hold on. Let her finish. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to know that.
Well, no, because I mean the rules aren't being applied evenly, so it's like I can't interject at all, but then I keep getting interrupted.
You can definitely interject.
No, because you're like, no, let me finish, but then it's different rules for me, and then that's not fair.
I did just.
I know, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, because
I didn't even know this was a debate. I thought we were just like going over topics, and then like you popped in, and then
we are going over topics.
Yes. If you're saying that there's not a too small for a sample size, do you think that I can go ask one person a question?
Didn't say that.
Okay, so what would not be like? What would be an appropriate size for you then? So like
it's going to depend on what it is that we're studying, why, and what the control factors are. So this is my whole problem.
I'm saying controls, but like I'm not sure that you understand how controls work.
Controls are super important for any study. Yes. Wouldn't you agree?
like controls are important for certain types of things that you're studying. You can't
No,
just
for all
throw
types
out.
of
No, you
No, for all
this
types
is
of-
like.
there's no science is not possible.
I understand how to run studies. You don't need controls
No, you
for
don't
all things
understand,
that
which
you
is why
study.
Your studies are all bullshit.
You haven't
Every study
read
is
my
only-
studies, dude. Listen,
every- Yes, I have dove into your studies, which is how I knew that teenagers were oversampled in all of them. And they're all bullshit. That aside,
No.
hang on, that aside, can you tell me how you can have science absent controls, madame?
You can absolutely have science absent controls. Like for example, science is testing a hypothesis, right? And like let's say I have a hypothesis here that like maybe the people who looked worse when they were made into old people actually have higher body counts. How would you propose we have a control for this hypothesis?
Well, wait a second. Let's back up. Your hypothesis is what?
That the people who looked worse when they were aged up have higher body counts. This is my hypothesis, hypothetically.
Yeah, great. So you're going to test this hypothesis.
Yeah, so what would you suggest be the control?
Wait. Are we testing the hypothesis? Because that's the next part of the scientific method, right?
Yeah, we could test it by...
Okay, so how can you have a test absent a control?
I'm proposing the hypothesis. I'd like to know how you would propose that we control for this.
It doesn't matter how I would do it. I'm asking how could it even be done absent a control?
The way that I would test this hypothesis is I would ask people to, like, for example, I would figure out how bad we look in the things, maybe assign a rating so we can have a number.
Control.
No, that's not a control.
Yeah,
okay,
no,
do we
it's
just
not.
have like very different meanings of the word? What do you mean when you say control?
No, we don't have very different meanings of the word control.
Assigning a number to a way a face looks is not a control.
In science, what do you think a control is?
A control is, let's say I give a medication to a group of people because I want to see if it has an effect. I also measure the group of people that have not received that medication as a control to see if there's a difference between the populations.
So in sociology, you're saying there's no controls?
I'm saying there can be controls. I'm saying I'm giving you. Listen to me talk for a second. Yeah. What I'm saying is that there are some types of hypotheses for which testing does not require controls. And I'm giving you a very narrow example. For example, I'm checking to see if there's a correlation in this group between the apparent age of being aged up and body count. And I would do this by looking at the number assigned to the age, and I would look at the body count, and I would run a correlation.
What you've done is you've created a control ruling other things out.
That's not what a control is. A control is taking another group and then checking to see if your intervention had an effect depending on the group.
That's one type of control. The other thing you talked about is another type of control.
We are measuring two variables.
All scientific. Are
you using the word control?
Stop. All a scientific control is doing is controlling for a variable. The very first thing that you gave me was a variable control, you fucking dummy.
So you're saying you're using the word...
How do you not know this shit? You're a fucking... Yes, the very first thing you gave me was a fucking variable control. The very first thing you said was a variable control.
So what you're saying is that if we are testing the correlation between two... We could do a collective... Sorry, everything's happening suddenly.
It's just so embarrassing for you. I can't even believe that you just said that, but go ahead.
It only be effective if everyone did it, though.
Well, how are you feeling right now? Do you feel like you're like having a fun time dominating?
Oh my God!
Because I really think that maybe you don't know how science works.
How does my mental state help you explain what a fucking scientific control is when the first thing you said was a scientific control ruling out X thing? That's a control.
No, a control is when you make sure that you're testing a group to make sure that it is not being affected by your intervention. It's a control group.
That's one form of control.
Okay, or you can test two variables to see if there's a correlation. And are you saying that
the very first control that you gave us?
I have never in my life heard the word control used to refer to one of the variables which was true. I could be wrong. I am willing to say I was wrong if it turns out that standard science.
If you're setting parameters for an experiment, everything that you're setting which would rule X variable out would be a control.
Okay, what do you mean everything that I'm saying would rule X variable out? Like, what am I saying would rule X variable out?
Okay, so if we want a control for this, like, okay, my hypothesis is that there's flint, which makes this flame happen, right? So I can add a variance, I can add 100 different variances of controls to this, can't I? I could take the flint out, for instance, or possibly I can add multiple flints, or I could say, well, we're not going to do that at all, we're only going to do X. All of those things would be controls in the experiment for how this flint made this lighter work. If you're talking about statistics when it comes to studies, the very first thing you say is, the way that I would do this is I would divide X by Y. You're introducing a control which rules other things out. You're trying to narrow the process to affirm the You're trying to narrow the process to affirm the hypothesis. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, I understand attempting to rule things out.
That's a control. You can't even do experiments without controls. That's my whole point.
I think you're coming from an extremely different type of science than I am, or else you don't understand how the science that I'm doing works. I'm not sure which one is the case.
I can't wait to hear this. Tell me how we can have science absent a control for an experiment. All experiment by itself is literally inferring that there's controls, or we couldn't have an experiment.
Okay, let's think of a slightly simpler example. Let's say I want to see if there's a correlation between height and weight in a population. How would you propose that we test this?
Between height and weight? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I told you my strategy for the last one. Can you tell me your strategy for this one?
Why would it matter what my strategy is?
Just so that I know how you're thinking about this.
I don't know. I mean, I have no idea.
I know that it is like, you like to put me on the defensive by asking a lot of questions, and then you won't answer questions because that would put you on the defensive.
I don't know how I would conduct such a study. Why would that matter?
Well, just think. Do we have a whole bunch of people, and we're trying to see...
Like, literally, what would the relevancy be, regardless of how I answered, right? To whether or not...
Well, it's how you do science.
It would have the addition of controls.
I'm just curious how you would test to see if there's a correlation between height and weight. Just how would you do the science? What's your strategy?
I have no idea. I've never thought about it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there are ways to do this. There's statistical things we can run. Like we make a chart,
Okay.
X and Y axis. It's a chart. If you would like to call one of the axes a control, we can put that word on that if that makes you happy.
What else would it be?
The X axis. It's the X and Y axis. It's like you plot the data on a graph. This is just the way that it works.
And why are we doing that though?
Well, I'll explain.
For what? Because we're controlling for what?
We're not controlling for anything. We're testing to see if there's a correlation. Do you know what correlations are?
So we're controlling for a correlate.
We're not. We're running a calculation on the. Do you know what a correlation is?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me what, just to make sure that you understand?
What a correlate is?
What a correlation is. Like, how is a correlation calculated?
It would be something that could be loosely or vaguely or non-vaguely associated with some other property.
Very close, yes. It helps tell you how much you can predict one variable by knowledge of the other variable. So, for example, if we want to check the correlation between height and weight.
I don't care about a monologue. I'm asking how it's not a control.
Your question makes no sense. I can explain to you how correlations work. I can explain to you p-values.
I don't care about how correlations work. I'm asking about controls, not correlation.
Controls are relevant for certain types of questions.
Perhaps they are.
I'm trying to say controls are not
controls right now. And if you say,
I think you.
Okay, I have a graph and it divides it in half, and it's putting this half over here, this half over there. You have now introduced a way to control what your experiment's going to be.
I can continue. So if we have a graph, X and Y axis like this, and then we plot everybody's height and weight along it. So like one axis is height and the other axis is weight, and you have a whole bunch of dots on this graph. What you can do is you can run basically do a calculation that shows you a trend line to see if the dots slowly kind of increase with the Y axis the higher you get on the X axis. And then you do a calculation of the square root of all of the points from the trend line, and then basically from that you get what's called the R value. And this is how far away different points are from being tightly correlated. So for example,
that makes total sense to me.
Yeah, so for example, height.
I just want to read a simple thing for you. An experimental control refers to a group or element within the scientific experiment that remains unchanged or serves as a baseline comparison or divider from the experimental group. Mm-hmm. Everything you just explained was a control.
No, I explained to you a correlation.
No. You explained how to use control for correlates.
Yes, so you want something that's unchanged from the group. So for example, if I'm giving you medication, then this means that I am introducing some sort of influence, and so I have a control to check the difference between those groups. That's what a control is, and I think this is great and fantastic and very important in science, and a lot of science doesn't have controls, and I think you're correct to be going, why are there not controls?
I am correct. You're right. It's
however, this is a different concept from
science is only as good as its controls, and you haven't actually given me a way in which we can conduct an experiment absent controls.
Well, I'm describing how we can find the correlation between height and weight.
Yeah, I'm not asking about how you can describe correlates.
Guys.
How can we run an experiment which refers to a group or element within a scientific experiment that remains either unchanged, serves as a baseline for comparison, or divides the experimental group? How could you even do it? How?
That's a great question. How would you do it if we're trying to test height and weight?
I'm asking you.
We don't, because this
Age.
is not
You
how
could just
science
choose an
works.
age. Can we move on?
Because there's so few of them. There's so few that could be a good representation of a sample size. I'm not saying it is. By the way, Chair 1, I can see you already autistically gurping. I said it could be. I'm just giving you the idea that some groups may have very narrow windows, and so smaller sample sizes could be fine. So it depends on what we're studying and why.
I agree with you, but not for the reasons you stated.
Okay, you're just so here's the thing. I'm gonna go ahead and just say, give me the reasons. They're literally going to be the reasons I just stated, though. Go ahead.
So just to make sure I understood you right, you're claiming that the reasons that a small sample size can be fine is like possibly you're measuring a very small population.
No.
So,
no.
Sorry, you said, okay, can
That's
you clarify?
an incorrect Steelman.
All right.
So the Steelman would be small as subjective.
Please correct me.
So when you say small, that's a subjective metric. It's not telling me anything. That doesn't tell me any information. Like for the prostitutes, what's a small dick? I don't know. That's going to be completely subjective as to what you think that is. I have no idea what that means. It's not scientifically, small is not scientific. It's some made up shit in your head to give a reference to something which is not as big as another thing, but it doesn't tell me anything. So when I say small, I'm trying to reference her, or give a reference to her worldview. This is too small of a sample size, this is too large of a sample size, but you're not actually telling me anything.
Well, I'll say how I agree with you, and I agree with you.
Michael Jones donated $200. A scientific control is a part of the scientific method that involves using a standard for comparison to minimize the effect of variables other than the independent variable. Jesus is Lord.
Thank you, Michael.
Totally agree. I don't know how an experiment can be done, which is part of the scientific method, absent a control. She said she did, never could give us one.
So glad we got to the bottom of that. Okay, now.
I could keep talking about statistics all night.
Well, look, I mean, I did propose earlier if you wanted to do a 1v1 conversation.
Absolutely not.
All right, this is your chance, Andrew. Keep going.
No.
Oh, boy.
I don't understand. Did you say nar?
No.
I said no.
Nar.
No.
No.
Nar.
She's British. It's
Yeah,
not
mine's actually the English language.
I know. I'm
So-
trying to lighten the mood.
Okay, Andrew. Keep
Do
it
you
up.
guys, is there more to the statistics?
Okay, I'll keep it up. Anyway, so look, I'll just tie it off here very quickly, right? I understand you don't want to do a debate on this stuff. I don't blame you, right? Because that would go bad for you. But the point is like, you really haven't actually demonstrated how you can run an experiment. I do want to actually know if that's even possible to do, because to me it infers controls. Just the experiment itself, the word infers control.
It's definitely a huge subset of science involves that. Yeah.
So can you give me an experiment that doesn't have control?
So we have a question of whether or not height correlates with weight. This is a hypothesis that we should test.
Okay.
I can explain to you how correlations work.
Yeah, but how does the experiment work?
The experiment is we're going to ask a whole bunch of people their height and weight.
Okay.
And then we're going to see if there is a relationship between those things.
Are we going to ask people about what color their dog's fur is?
If we could. I don't see how it'd be relevant.
Are we going to ask them what color their dog's fur is?
Probably not.
Oh, it sounds like a control then. Anyway, I appreciate that very much. That was very kind of you to go ahead and demonstrate my point for me.
I hadn't really directly experienced in person people being extremely overconfident about statistics. But here we are.
This has nothing to even do with statistics.
Yes, it really does, though.
About controls for a scientific experiment. What you have done is you have now narrowed that you, indeed, in your experiment, are going to immediately add controls to it. Just by ruling out the things you won't ask, you're now adding in, by the way, the definition.
Yes.
Right? Unchanging This is an unchanging.
We can't
group
control for
or
things.
element within the scientific experiment that remains unchanged. That serves as a baseline for comparison. You immediately are introducing something which is an unchanged element, right?
No,
because you're not asking about dog's fur. You're asking about the height and weight. That is a control.
We can control for things. For example, if I ask about height and weight, maybe we should control for gender. Like maybe men are.
You could add that.
Right, and that would be a control.
It could be relevant.
That would be controlling for something.
But you're not going to add what color the dog's fur is, right?
We could try and control for dog's fur. I don't think that would change anything.
Well, but you already are controlling for dog's fur because you're not asking about dog's fur because it's not relevant because you have an unchanging standard. You have an unchanging standard because it's a control.
Look, if you guys want to have the 1v1, you can. I let this go on for like 15 minutes. This podcast doesn't exist in vacuum. There's other guests. I have to be considerate of them too.
No problem. I'm happy to move on.
It's a frequent criticism I get, like that I move things on, but like a lot of people aren't in the room. Like there's other people that want to talk. I have to be considerate of like other guests on the podcast.
Yeah, it's a totally reasonable move, I think.
I have zero issues with this.
Yeah, no, I'm not directing this at you, Andrew. It's just like a lot of the commenters get. And I'll even grant sometimes I do cut conversation short, but sometimes we do have to move it on. And look, I'll happily host the 1v1. I can moderate it. Oof. I'll scold him if he calls you a spurg. How dare you, Andrew? How dare I sent him a text. Never mind.
Well, I am probably a spurg.
Oh, okay. All right. Me too. We have something in common. That's cool. All right. Here, let me.
Sometimes.
Hold on. Hold on. Go ahead, Ayla. Go ahead.
Just use a very quick example. You were like, "Oh, you've been very disrespectful," and then he was like, "Well, who's been disrespectful or something?" No, yeah. You were like, "People are very disrespectful here," and then he like sort of challenged this, and then he said, "Well, you have been," and then he said, "Well, yeah," and then like quickly shifted the topic. Just as like an example is like sort of the conversational strategy that I think is like regularly at play here.
I'm happy to engage with the topic. I actually asked her, how have I been disrespectful to you? And the answer is how? Well, what? Yeah, what have I done? Because I'm patched in remotely.
You have several conversational techniques that I could name if you'd like.
Hang on, stop. That's disrespectful. So because I've had to interject a couple of times because I'm patched in remotely, I'm not in the studio. Like, what have I actually said to you that's actually disrespectful except challenge your views? Not you, Ayla. I'm not talking to Ayla.
No, for me it would be
matters, Carly.
Really?
We're almost done.
I told her I would come. I want to be with her. It's okay.
Candace?
You guys were lovely.
Can we coax her?
Lovely.
We can coax her
Thank
back.
you so much.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you.
I don't like you very much.
All right. Thank you for.
I'm gonna go.
Oh, wait, guys, stay.
I'm so hungry.